שלום לכולם.
היי, אנחנו נחכה עוד איזה דקה-שתיים לעוד אנשים שיצטרפו.
הנה דונה. שלום דונה.
היי, מה העניינים?
טוב, אנחנו בלייב, אז אנחנו נחכה עוד דקה לכמה אנשים שיצטרפו ואז נתחיל, בסדר?
אוקיי, בסדר.
יופי. נועה, את רוצה להגיד לנו רק, לתת לנו סימן מתי אפשר? שתתני לנו עוד כמה מספר אנשים אנחנו יודעות, נועה. נראה לי שאפשר, מה את אומרת? נתחיל?
נראה לי שנתחיל, אנחנו מקווים שתהנו, וליאתי ודונה הבמה שלכם.
אוקיי, אז בוקר טוב או ערב טוב לכל מי שיצטרף לסשן Maximize the value of your short meeting. אני ליאת, פרוגרם מנג'ר באייקון, ויחד איתי נועה, מנהלת הקהילה של אייקון. למי שזה אירוע ראשון שלו איתנו, אז אייקון אנחנו ארגון ללא מטרות רווח, שמטרתו לעזור ליזמי טק ישראלים להצליח בארצות הברית. יש לנו מגוון אירועים, תוכניות, תכנים לקידום המטרה הזאת, וזו הזדמנות באמת להזכיר לכם להיכנס למערכת שלנו, להציץ רגע ולראות איזה עוד אירועים חדשים הוספנו השבוע. אנחנו כל הזמן מעדכנות אירועים אונליין ואירועים אין פרסן חדשים. אתם מוזמנים להיכנס, להסתכל מה רלוונטי ולהירשם אליהם, ואחרי הסשן הזה אתם גם תגיעו אליהם מוכנים יותר, אנחנו מקוות. הסשן של היום נוצר מתוך צורך שזיהינו אצל יזמים שרוצים להכין את עצמם בצורה אופטימלית לפגישות קצרות ומאוד ממוקדות, שבהם הם צריכים להציג את עצמם ואת הסטארט-אפ שלהם. דוגמה טובה זה באמת המרתון שמתחיל שבוע הבא, שבה כל פגישה היא בעצם 20 דקות והיא מאוד מאוד קצרות וצריך להגיע להם מאוד ממוקדים. לטובת הסשן הזה גייסנו את הטובה ביותר, את דונה גריפיט, שהיא גם שותפה ותיקה של אייקון והולכת איתנו הרבה שנים, כדי לעזור לכם להוציא את המקסימום במינימום זמן. אז דונה, הבמה שלך.
איזה כיף, איזה יופי של אינטרו, תודה אהלן לכולם. אין לי מושג כמה רואים, אני אולי מדברת לעצמי, אז אם בא לכם מדי פעם ככה לשים לנו comments. Hi Aristel, welcome. ממש נשמח לראות, אני גם אתייחס אליהם כל כמה דקות כדי לענות על שאלות, ואני באמת רוצה שזה יהיה סשן יעיל, אני לא יכולה לעלות אנשים לדבר איתם על StreamYard, אבל אני כן יכולה להתייחס לשאלות, ואני מאמינה שתהיה הקלטה של זה, נכון ליאת?
כן.
אז אם אתם סופים לאחר מעשה ויש לכם שאלות, תרגישו חופשי לכתוב לי, ליאת, את יכולה לשים את המייל שלי בצ'אט, וככה שלכולם יהיה. אז אני עכשיו הולכת לעשות share לסלייד שלי, from my card, רגע, נעשה share from, I'll just do my screen. Okay, share screen, there we go, share, and אתם רואים את הסקרין שלי כבר?
לא, עוד לא.
רגע, כבר יהיה. עכשיו? את רואה? ליאת?
לא.
לא. כתוב לי StreamYard is sharing your screen. Not yet, not yet. Okay. There we go. Oh,
okay.
Something weird. Wait a minute. Is that how you're seeing it? Okay. So let's go. Now I'll do it up all the way. Okay, now?
כן.
אוקיי, מה שזה עושה אגב, אני לא יכולה לראות עכשיו את הקומנטס ליד, אז אני אעצור כל כמה שקפים ואני אבדוק אם יש קומנטס ותקריא לי, בסדר? Got it? אני לא שומעת. אתם עוד פה? רגע, בואי ליאת, רק נפתור את החידה הזאת. את איתי? אני לא שומעת. כנראה לא זה. Okay, now you guys saw it, but now I can't see any of you, so I'm just going to have to, hi Elisa, hi Fabian. Okay, so I am going to have to try something else. I'm going to stop my screen, you can hear me. Okay, and now let's do a share our slides, and I will do from my computer, upload file, and let's do recent. Sorry guys, and I did no, I want my new slides and I want for a quick meeting. Great. And I will be happy to, oh, it's not letting me upload that. Yofi. Okay. Sorry, guys. Let's do this one more time. Share screen and share. And let's do a window. There we go. That should work better now this time. Okay, share. Okay, now can you see my screen? I cannot hear you, so if somebody can say yes, that would be great. Yet? Okay, I'm going to assume you guys can see it. And there we go. All right. Okay, so everybody can see, I hope my screen's now, and let's get started. So, hi everyone, we are going to be talking today about a quick pitch meeting. רק שאני ידע, אתם מעדיפים עברית, אנגלית, שאני אדבר את השפה הנכונה, ואין לי כל כך איך לראות עכשיו את התגובות. No, you're not seeing, you can't see my screen, I'm in the show. I'm hoping that icon will come back and tell me just how to share this. So again, okay, stop the share. This is frustrating. Liat. Okay, I'll do this again and I just won't see you guys. So I'll just do entire screen. And now I'm going to put up my slides again. And okay, we're going to do English. Great. Thank you for answering that. So I did see that. And this is going to be that. Okay. All right. Are we seeing the screens? I can't see your answer. So I'm going to, wrong. Again, wrong one. Jesus. Sorry, guys. This usually doesn't happen. I don't know what is going on here. There we go. Quick pitch. Liat? Anyone? Okay, and let's do this. Okay, I'm just going to go, and if there's a problem, I hope Icon will reach out to me and tell me that this is not saying. Okay, now you see? Okay, someone asked for English. That's the reason that I went into English. So just to clarify, yet, just so I know if we should do English. Okay, so I'm going to just get going in English or in Hebrew. Okay, so I'll just go in English, and if anybody has any questions in Hebrew, please Leah, please be on standby so that we can check for questions because I can't flip back and forth between the screens. All right, quick pitch and quick meeting, very similar to each other. Now, a lot of these meetings are going to be with investors. So we do want to focus on that and make sure that we're talking to investors. Now, you may not all be raising funds, and that's fine. But you're always raising funds. So you always are and you always aren't. So if you're not raising funding now, you might be raising funding in a few months from now. And this is a phenomenal chance to establish a relationship. And also investors in Silicon Valley, the minute you said you say you're not raising, they want in even more. So this is a really great opportunity for that. Now, I always say to my clients that first meeting with an investor is like a first date. If on your date, your first date, you start telling somebody about your entire dating history, how many kids you want to have, where you want to get married, there's a good chance that you're not going to see that person again. Now, in a 5-minute meeting, it's more like a speed dating. And if you've never experienced this wonderful thing, don't. Many years ago when I was single living in New York, I went on a speed dating and I thought, oh, what an efficient way to meet people. Yeah, it was a nightmare. 10 women sitting at tables, the men were circling around, and you have 5 minutes to see if you ever want to see this person again. 5 minutes can be a very, very long time. And that's not what I want there to be in this 5-minute meeting. I want people walking out intrigued. There is no way in a 5-minute pitch. Now, I know you'll have like 20 minutes, 15 minutes with them, but you want to leave time for discussion and for questions. So we want to aim for like a 5-minute presentation, whether you're using slides or just talking it through them. So you want to intrigue them. You want to grab their attention. You want this to be the opening for a much bigger meeting. So don't try telling the whole story. All right, give them just enough, and I'm going to give you a very clear picture of what I want that just enough to be. There are 3 things that investors are really listening for the entire time, and I want you guys to memorize this and constantly be trying to hit on it. Credibility, likability, and momentum. All right, so it's how much you know, how much your team knows, your track record, and all of that show that you really know your industry. The momentum piece, how far have you gotten? Numbers, traction, sales, growth, all of that good stuff, and likability. It's not being like the, oh, I'm so sweet and a cheerleader, not at all. But it's showing them that you have flexibility of thought, that you're coachable, that you're able to take in their notes. We've sat through meetings here at Icon where investors got to see pitches. And one thing that we heard that kind of really resonated with us was, why aren't you taking notes? You know, so for them, if you're not sitting there writing out notes, you as the CEO, not your CTO and not somebody with you, and not taking notes on your phone or your computer, actually writing, they want to see that you are taking this in. They said, you know, it could be, you know, something you throw away, but it's showing that they have something to give you other than money, which is really important. Now, obviously, you're going to start off introducing yourself, and you want to give them the big, exciting news first, which you are going to do. But unless your team looks like that, there's really no need to have the team slide up front. When will you put it up front? When your team adds buckets to your credibility. You have serial entrepreneurs, or you yourself are a serial entrepreneur, big names on your advisory board. But if you only have a short meeting and you have a nice team, they're hard workers and great, you can save that for a little bit later. But what you can't save for later is the good news. We've seen teams put in like slide 17 that they just closed a major deal or did something major. And by the way, all of these quotes here are from Silicon Valley meetings. We've gotten straight quotes from partners, obviously anonymized. And they're like, you know, why did you wait so long to tell me that? So you want to have the good news up front. So one thing you want to have up front is your vision statement. All right. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, said Simon Sinek. So you want them to understand what your North Star is, what your vision is, what you're heading towards. It may not be what you have right now, but it's a seismic shift in the market that you're heading into. So in your brief message, in your 5 minutes, you're going to have 3 layers of messaging. Your why. Where are you heading? What will you be 5 years from now when you're being interviewed on TechCrunch for a big exit or a big a liquidity event that you had? What will they say about your company? What are you doing? That's the what, which we'll get to, and the how are you doing it? What sets you apart? How does it work? The demo. So all 3 of those have to be in. Any questions that have come up? Liat, anything that anybody has asked? Because I can't see the question screen, unfortunately. Okay, I'm going to take that. I know, but I can't look at the chat because I'm sharing my full screen and it doesn't show me both. A little bit of an annoyance in StreamYard. So please, that's why I want you to pop in every few minutes and let me know. Okay, so while Liat is checking, I'll move on and keep them coming. Great. So if you have any, please feel free to pop it in. If you're thinking it, someone else might be. So I want you to think of your 5-minute pitch as a 4-act play. So storytelling is based on thousands and thousands of years of storytelling, of stories that have been written. And Greek tragedies, Shakespeare, Moliere, Chekhov, they all wrote in a very specific way, in acts and then in chapters and in ways that our brain is used to taking in information. And that's the basis of communication. It's the bedrock of how our brains are wired. And our brains got their last hardware upgrade 50,000 years ago. We've gotten a lot of software since then, but that was the main place. And that piece of the brain that we got is responsible for so many things. It's visual processing, it's communication, it's recognition. So I want you to speak to people in the way their brains are wired to being spoken to. So the first act of your 4-act play is you want to make them either feel the pain or hallelujah, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't believe they're going to do this. This is so exciting. So it's either the stick or the carrot. It could go either way. Now, I can hear the grumbles in the background. Oh, seriously? She's going for the problem solution. How overdone is that? Yeah, it is. It's been done for thousands of years. I did say that. I did not invent this. I wasn't wrong back then. But it's taking it and understanding that if you do it this way and you use this framework, you will always win at your pitches, whether you're giving more of an investor-oriented pitch or a sales pitch. And we'll talk about the sales also, because I know some of you might be speaking to execs in this quick meeting. So I'm sitting in a window with 4 houses in my view right across from me, and they all look a bit different, but I know they all have something in common, and that's a frame and a foundation. Because how do I know that? They wouldn't be standing if they didn't have it. So I don't walk by a house and say, ooh, that's a really nice framework you have there. But it has to be there, and it becomes transparent. So these 4 acts of your 5-minute message are going to be transparent. The first act being either the carrot or the stick, the pain or the solution that you have for that. And that I want you to turn into a story. So somebody just asked a great question. What about the 30-minute pitch and not the 5-minute pitch? The joy of this session today is I am giving you a gift. It's both. All right. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But this framework works for whether you have 5 minutes, 30 seconds, or 20 minutes, 30 minutes for the longer one. So just bear with me and you'll see at the end how it all kind of comes together. Thank you. And keep the questions coming. So that first act, we're going to turn into a story. It could be your origin story, which I love. I have worked for nearly 2 decades with founders, and I still remember stories from 12, 15 years ago about how a company started and where they got that first idea. And these stories are inspiring, and they show a deep facet of who you are. This week, I worked with a company that's creating a way for autistic people and people on the spectrum to better view content. And he was inspired by his 16-year-old nephew, who for the first time he was able to actually communicate with, because he figured something out that he now wants to make a bigger population. These stories are incredible, and it doesn't have to be something that, you're solving this deep problem, but it's something that really gets through. And that's going to be what starts the meeting off in the right way, because A, it shows something about you, and B, it's not something that they can argue about. It's not something that they can say, oh, well, that's not because it's your own. So this is what sets you on your path. It can be done in 30 seconds. Now, Mark Twain said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I would never tell you to lie, but there is a way to tell a story that you are telling just the most relevant and the sexiest parts that really get people involved in that. So, for example, one of our icon companies many, many years ago, and we will not say who they were, a group of the founders having a one-on-one session with them. And they were talking about, image analysis and computer vision and deep learning and machine learning. And I was not getting what the heck they were doing. And then one of the founders said, this one time in Tokyo, and my storytelling antenna come up and I'm like, oh, you mean you came up with your idea in Tokyo? That's so cool. And they're like, no, we already told you it's from computer analysis background, and we come from this IDF unit and that IDF unit. I said, okay, guys, enough. By the way, nobody really cares about your IDF unit. Sorry to say that, but it's not a red carpet moment in Silicon Valley. Okay, so I said, okay, guys, you came up with this idea in Tokyo, okay? And they kind of looked at me strange, but then they got it. Because doesn't it sound sexier to say something like, we were roaming the streets of Tokyo, feeling lost in translation, looking at all these beautiful buildings and having not a single sign in English. And then we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could just, lift up our phone, snap a shot, and right away see what we were looking at, like with a description of it and like what was around here. And we thought, well, with our history of computer vision and image analysis, maybe we can. So do you think the investors asked to see their passport to see if they had been in Tokyo first or later? No. Now today it's an AR/VR play and it's embedded in automotive. But the bottom line is, we've all, when we used to travel, right? Remember those days? We have all been to countries where we didn't quite read the language or get what was going on. I remember the first time I landed in China, it was total culture shock. So we just want that moment of resonance, and stories resonate. I know that I spent a chunk of time on that, but I cannot express to you how important these stories are when told in the right way. It can also be the story of one of your clients. the struggle that they had or the struggles of the industry in general. So this list I made in the wake of, 2008, 2009, the kind of companies that were coming out. And these were the struggles or the villains that they were dealing with. Bad economy, interesting. Seems to have persevered, and it seems like there might be a wave of that coming now with inflation rates the way they are. Security vulnerabilities, yes, still around. Waste in the system, sustainability is massive now. It's like everybody's favorite buzzword. Waste in the system. Now these last three, sorry guys. Yeah, can you still see my screen? Yes, hoping so. So these last three, boredom, popularizing cultural trend, missing a great opportunity, those are the carrots. It's not that like somebody said one day, I really feel the need to watch people with silly videos. It's really missing in my life, but TikTok is here and people are addicted, and it's about also the carrot of providing a solution for boredom. And if you're not using video, you're missing out on a great opportunity. So these are all things that we really want to look at the pain. Yeah, if there's any questions or if anybody would like to add any questions, please do. These are the new villains. March, can you believe it? 2 years ago, 2020, when everything was kind of collapsing and we were all going into the first shutdown and lockdown. I was trying to figure out ways that I could be helpful to, the startups that I work with everybody's freaking out because all funding freezes and all meetings are canceled and everything happens. So I was kind of looking at the industry and seeing, okay, what are going to be the big heroes of this time? What are we lacking? And boy, did I not realize how deep it was even lacking. I mean, logistics, look at what's happening with supply chain. Part of it is COVID and part of it is so many other things. Money saving, edutech, remote work and collaboration, digital health. All of these are the more relevant things. And this is super important because you want to be able to show whoever you're meeting with that there is a relevancy and an urgency of what you're doing now. And this is something people are willing to put money in. And people are willing to, it's like, give me this now, I need it. So if you can prove an urgency in the market, that's fabulous. And you really want to make them connect into that. So that was Act 1, the problem or the opportunity. Act 2, what? The what. We talked about the why, now we talk about the what. Your simple solution statement. It's simple, but it's not easy. And it goes, we do X for Y by Z or by Z. All right. That is how simple you should be able to explain what it is that you do, that they get it right away, whether they have a degree in computer science or image analysis or not. And then as fast as possible, you want to give them an impressive demo. Sorry, what about climate change? Somebody said something about climate change. Yeah, climate change is definitely in there, but that wasn't as rampant back in March 2020. We had other issues on our plate. That list will update continuously, but climate change, finally, people kind of got it, that it wasn't a myth, and I've seen a lot more investments in that space. And yet a lot of it is still like, oh, we care deeply about it, and not really necessarily doing anything about it. But I see that that's shifting even more. Okay, so tell us what your solution is and then show us the how. You want to show an impressive demo as fast as possible. Now, they might say to you, don't even open your slides, just talk to me. But I would ask, can I show you what it looks like? Because then they can actually see it. So this is the one part you should definitely show. Steve Jobs could have stood there for an hour talking about the iPad, but the minute he showed it, we all got it. And that's what we want to take them on, a user journey. All right. It can be an actual story of one of your clients and, how were they struggling before you? And then how did they use it? This is how they onboard. Simple, easy. Implementation within hours or days we were up. These are a few killer features and how it worked. And then the results, oh my gosh, off the charts. Within just a week, we had shown them $38 million worth of inefficiencies and 30,000 risks that could potentially hurt them. And, whatever the numbers were that you showed. And then some kind of testimonial, we were blown away by what this company was able to do. This has added tremendous value, and we cannot imagine life without them. And that shows stickiness. And that's really what you want to reflect, that this is something that people, once they go your way, they ain't going back to the old way. And you can show, not in your 5-minute pitch, but in your longer pitch, a few more of these, just in different industries, but have one great one. You can also make this a deconstructed user story. You can use the story of their struggle in your opening problem story, and then show how you, when you come back, and then tie it all together nicely. Okay. So that is the problem, Act 1, the solution, and the demo in Act 2. And now we move into Act 3. Are there any questions about any of these so far? And remember, we're talking about a 5-minute pitch, but this is also relevant for the longer pitch. Keep the questions coming, Liat. Let me know if there's any other questions. How far along are you? Now we're into Act 3, we're into the business. So if you didn't have a brag slide at the beginning where you talked about your, big raise, big deal closed, massive growth, which if you have that, again, don't make them wait for it. This is a good place to show it. Look, you might be early stage. You might have early revenues. You might just be in beta. You might have like a patent pending. Wherever you are, they want to know where you're at. Okay, so you can kind of give them your traction. And again, that's all about the momentum. Then there are 3 things in the business that if you only have 5 minutes, I want you to stress. First one being differentiation. Okay, you need to truly show what sets you apart, but you need to do it in a respectful way. In Silicon Valley, it is absolutely intolerable to say anything negative, because if you're saying something negative about a competitor or about someone else, they're right away thinking, I wonder what they're saying about me behind my back. It's just, it doesn't wash. So be very careful. You want to show that the fact that you have competitors is awesome. Okay, it means that you have a market, and you are just there to leverage their success and say, we're doing it better, faster, better execution, better team, whatever. So what sets you apart? Be able to show that visually. If you go to my website, donnagriffit.com, under resources, I have a lot of goodies that guide you through a 5-minute pitch, an investor pitch, and also a competitive landscape. So you can check that out afterwards. The second piece is monetization. How are you making money now? Or how will you be making money when you activate your monetization model? Is it, a SaaS monthly annual licensing agreement? Or maybe you have certain upsells that you'll be able to activate, that there will be additional revenue streams. So you also have the SaaS model, but you also have a transaction fee, and then you can show the projections of that. They want to know that you have a solid model in mind, even if that changes. And finally, opportunization. I know that's not a real word, but it rhymes with monetization and differentiation, so it's easier to remember. But this is really the silver bullet for me, okay? This is about showing the urgency, which we talked about before. Investors suffer from FOMO, and organizations too, because they want to know that they have the cutting edgest solution out there. Nobody wants to miss out on the next great thing. So if you can show the urgency in the market and show that you are about to solve that, then it is just a great way to awaken their want and need of you. FOMO, if those of you that don't know, fear of missing out. So there's 3 different trends that I try to look for. If you only have 5 minutes, hit on the biggest trend, and you can also bring it at the very beginning when you're talking about the problem. One trend I look for is behavioral. Is there an awakening in the market? There's massive adoption of e-commerce now that was driven by COVID. Climate change, people are much more concerned about that. So what is happening in the market that shows that your end users, whoever they are looking for more solutions that you can provide? The second one I look at is usually something regulatory, something that's changing in the law, something that is going to force people to do things in a certain way, audit wise, or information security wise, or sustainability wise. and people have had, so for example, one of my clients that I worked with a couple weeks ago told me that there's a regulation happening in manufacturing floors and factories that show that within, by 3 months ago, companies had to show that they were taking steps to protect the safety of workers on the floor, and managers would be held personally liable, meaning they couldn't hide behind the company's insurance. They would be held responsible. Nobody's done anything about it, and they have a solution for it. So if you can show that you can serve that solution, that is massive. And the third one, this is a bit sneaky, and this is also going to answer the question that we have, I think, so hold tight, whoever asked that. So this is the heat in the market. Do you have competitors, or either direct or indirect, that just got major funding rounds, that were acquired, that IPO'd? Is a lot of money being thrown into this industry, because that shows heat. Now, sometimes investors don't get in on a certain deal, and if you can show you are just as attractive, if not more, this might be very interesting to them. But be careful. Don't speak to investors that are invested in direct competitors of yours. It doesn't make any sense. It's not good for you, and it's not good for them. So then what I would do is I would put that third one in and bring the competition in right after that. Okay. So that's a nice way to play with the order. So the question here, does it need to be the exact order? Differentiation in the whys, it is part of the challenge. So you can play with the content, but keep the structure: problem, solution, business, and then what we're going to talk about in the middle in a minute, which is the moving towards the future. So as long as the structure's there within it, you can play with the different slides, and I'm fine with that. For example, if you do the trends, then bring in the competition later. The why, I want at the very beginning and at the very end. I'll talk about that in the middle. And then we're kind of building around to that, because then it has very powerful impact. Keep these questions coming. They're great. If you didn't talk about your team at the beginning, this is a great time to do it. Show their biggest assets. What are they bringing to the table? Why are they the team to execute? This is really important. Put logos of places they've worked at. Do any of them have exits? Have they taken things from idea to market? This is where you show why we are the team to execute on this. And then finally, Act 4, moving towards the future. You only have a very brief time with this person. You want to get them so excited that they go back to their office and they say, oh my gosh, you all have to meet this company. This is awesome. This is where we come back to the vision. So we started with the why. Now we say, but this is just the beginning. With the amount of data we will be gathering across the different enterprise organizations we're working with, we will be able to create a brain that is now capable of identifying patterns and setting better efficiencies, both operationally and for risks. This just came out of a session with something like that. So you're showing a much bigger vision that will happen as you grow, what you will be able to change. And that gets really exciting, because it's like you're becoming a standard it's like you're becoming the SAP or the Salesforce of whatever realm you are dealing with. And then you can show, the roadmap and how you're going to get there. And then, of course, you have an ask. Now, this is not a traditional pitch. If you're in a quick meeting, it's not that you're necessarily pitching them, but you can have ask and tell them, if you are asking for a specific amount of money, be specific and tell them what the allocations are for, and also your round objective, how far this will take you, 18 months, 24 months, and what will be the KPIs. Because investors have told me that when they're writing a check for this round, they already know they're on the hook for the next round, because you need to be able to deliver so that they can join the next round. If they don't join the next round, that's not a great signal for the other investors. Now, if you are not asking for funding, which is fine, have a specific ask. Why did you want to meet this person? Do you want to partner with their organization? Do you want to get their feedback on your product? Do you want them to, introduce you? Are they connected? So what is your ask? And don't be afraid to ask. Be specific. They're not, oracles. They need to know what it is that you want. Okay. So I wanted to show the 4 acts. Any questions? Please put them up on the chat. So whoever asked if this is the same for both the longer pitch and the shorter pitch, here's your answer. This is the foundation. These are the building blocks. Now you can have less information in each or more depending on the amount of time, but this will contract or expand as you need it to. It could build a 2-story home or a 20-story skyscraper. So the need or the opportunity, your solution and your demo, your business, depending on how long you have to go into it, hit on the most important things, and then moving into the future. And I like to end with a slide called key investment merits, or why ask, why now? So the 5 or 6 biggest things that you said that make you a hot investment opportunity, and lay them out on a slide at the end, just so it's there. Now let's take a look at the same structure of a salesy persuasion pitch. Like, let's say you're not getting investors. It's very, very similar. But the focus now is different, because if you're selling to them, it's about their needs and their problems and their questions. They don't need to know go to market and ROI on investments. They have other considerations in mind. So what is the need, the challenge for them or for companies similar to them? How does your solution work for them? What are the benefits and the unique selling points? Any business data that's relevant and important for them to know how you measure up against your competition. And then what will be even better in the future? What are you going to be offering that might be even more exciting to them? And then how do you suggest partnering moving forward? Questions about any of these or other things? And we have a few more points that I want to cover before we wrap, but please put those questions in. Okay. And here, the final slide I call like value prop or something, not key investment merits. What about if we want to make it smaller and we just have time for an elevator pitch, or you want to just introduce yourself really fast at the beginning of a meeting? Same thing. Now, oftentimes, and it's funny, when we have Icon SV 101, which we have a batch coming up in a few weeks, very exciting. First one back in 2 years in live. So we give them a minute to introduce themselves at the very first opening event, which is a mentor's breakfast. And we all kind of stand there with bated breath. In their minute, will they actually say something that people understand? Not always. So the problem is that people think, oh, I only have a minute. I better talk as much about my company as I possibly can. And that is the big miss, because you're missing the opportunity to engage them in their gut, their heart, and their mind at the same time, which is what the story piece, the problem story, does. So don't be afraid to use 20 seconds to put out the problem story. Just shrink it down. Ever traveled to a place where you didn't read the language? Feeling a little bit lost in translation. It happens to us all the time. In fact, cities lose $80 million a year because of undiscovered sales events in this. This is where we come in. And then you talk about your simple solution statement and maybe something really exciting about the business. Again, get them intrigued. Get them to want to hear more. This can be done in 1 minute. Then you can do like what I used to call it the handshake pitch, but nobody's shaking hands anymore. So we'll call it the elbow bump pitch. So if you only have 20 seconds to grab their attention, 1 line about the problem, 1 line about the solution. This can even be an eye blink pitch, the blink of an eye, 1-liner. You've got your vision statement. You've got your simple solution statement. You can do a value statement as to, bottom line of a true shift you can make. Companies are spending $38 million in excess on mismanaged vendor payments. We can help. And just pull out some kind of interesting tidbit from within your presentation. Okay. Questions about any of this or anything else? Keep them coming into the chat. Your slides, you would be surprised how much it matters. And we've seen investors here look at slides and be like, don't do that. So there is no excuse for crappy looking slides. You cannot have a $1 billion product with $1.50 slides. There are a lot of free tools out there, pitch.com, Pitch.io, SlideBot, SlideBean, Canva, all these ways to make it. And if you can afford to hire an actual designer, or if you have somebody who's doing your UI, then pay them a few hours extra and have them make your slides look amazing. Do not make your clients or your listeners or your audience want to commit suicide. All right. Do not dump mounds of data onto the slide. It is horrible and it is unforgivable and everybody will disengage. So my rule of thumb is one big idea per slide. People ask me, well, how many slides should there be? I don't like the whole, if you can't explain your business in 10 slides, you don't know how to explain your business. I don't buy that at all. I would rather see more slides with less on them than fewer slides that are like smashed in. Now, there's another bigger issue at hand. If you have too much text on your slides, you are competing with your words, because people take in information through 3 channels: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. When we read, the same part of the brain is activated as when we listen. It goes in through our camera, through our visual, but the language is decoded in this language processing center, which is the same place that's decoding the language that we hear. So guess what? If you put a ton of bullets up there, they're going to be reading it, because we've been conditioned, if there's something up there, we should read, but then they're not listening to you. And that's kind of a shame, because you have this meeting and they want to be there to listen to you, not to read your slides. You can send them a document or a send out deck or a teaser deck, which is, has a little bit more text on it, and that's fine. Okay, somebody is asking, we noticed that when we demoed in Act 2, the investors seem to close their mind, but it's just the first step in our deep tech development. We've had better responses demoing only at the end. You cannot wait till the end to show something about your product, but maybe you're showing too much of your product. You want to grab the highlights. That's why you don't need to delve in and show everything, because then it gets really boring. Pull out the highlights, tell the story. Maybe you weren't telling the user journey. That's what's interesting to them. Show them a few screens that look wow. Show them the responses and the results. That's the main thing. But the big thing is showing them how the user will journey with it. Otherwise, they're going to be sitting there thinking, yeah, but what does this look like? What does this look like? How does it work? And you don't want them doing that. That is my belief. If you have a specific product that it might be, by the way, if there's something very visual, I talked to someone this morning who I'm going to be working with. The minute you saw his product, you got it. So sometimes I will work on a deck and say, listen, we need to show this first. So before I tell you anymore, I want to show you. And then you show them something, and then you go back and explain, because then that eases the visual curiosity. So I hope I addressed that question. If you have a follow-up question, please put it in. So I want to piggyback on the SUA slide with my other rule of thumb. It should be one big idea that your grandma could understand, or grandpa. This is not a gender thing. I am a staunch feminist. This is a generational thing. Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And I agree with that very much. Now, here's the reason I have grandma in here. Many, many years ago, I was training a group of hardware engineers at Intel, and a guy gets up to present, and this was his slide. I was early on in the game, and I saw this, and my eyes clouded over. I thought maybe it was just me, but everybody else in the room did not seem particularly blown away. And then the guy gets up to present, and this is how he presents. Well, the multi-1 gig LAN backbone of the 10.1 gigabit Mac and the SPI 4P2 slot 1 net processor is interspliced to the backplane of the CSI XL2 switch fabric. Like literally reading every single data point on this slide. Fun times. So I let him go for a few minutes, and then I said, thank you, that was nice. By the way, in case you didn't know, if an American says to you, thank you, that was nice, or thank you, that was interesting, they don't really mean in case you were wondering. Now, it gets worse in Silicon Valley, because you'll hear things like amazing, awesome, excellent, terrific, fabulous, oh my God, we're totally going to do this. I'm all in. And then you'll never hear from the person again. So 1, don't count your money before it's in the bank. 2, if they're interested, they will take action, and you can follow up with them and get them to take the action. But all these superlatives are just niceties. And that's the game, okay? Positivity, rah, rah, oomph. Just so you know it, okay? Put that aside. So I said this guy, okay. So I said, great. So what does this mean? He's like, duh. Like, what's not clear about this? And he's like, well, the multi-1 gig LAN backbone. Like, he started speaking to me very slowly, as if I was a very problematic child, and I still wasn't getting it. So I said, okay, let's try this again. could you explain it to me so my grandmother would understand? And he looked at me with this renewed excitement. He's like, you mean your grandmother's an engineer? Really, poor guy. He was ready to hug me, but I had to tell him that neither of my grandparents nor my parents were engineers, and it did not skip a generation. But how many of you have ever tried to explain to your grandparents or your parents what your startup does? So interesting conversations, right? Now it is on our, hi Toma, good to see you, hi. So it is on us to be able to explain these things, okay? It is our responsibility. It's onus on us, not them. And it's not dumbing it down. It's elevating our audience and making them feel smart. And all this guy was really trying to say, I finally got it after several attempts, do much more with much less space. That's what we're doing, Grandma. You know, Grandma, once upon a time, computers were so big and clunky, they took up entire rooms. But now this, Grandma, your phone is like a bazillion times faster and a bazillion times smaller. How cool is that? You know, Grandma, it's like your kitchen. You know, you cook for 25 people in a teeny tiny kitchen. How do you? So it's telling people that may not get the technical side. It's making them smart. Now, investors are very, very smart people, but not all of them are as adept to technologies that are coming out, and you need to be able to explain it simply. So this morning, the team I was working with, they're like, you know, people don't usually get what we do right away. We have to really explain. I'm like, well, that's why I'm the translator of geek speak. So you have to be able to put it through a filter and translate it to anyone so they get it right away, and they can go back and explain to their partners, oh my God, I just saw this startup and they do XYZ. Not, it was something like, I can't quite remember. Boom, it instantly understandable. And the bottom line is it's all about them. It's not about you. And it's not about your technology. It's about how it will either solve their pain or make them a boatload of money. Okay. That's really what's important here. You are the vehicle. Sorry, that may sound, but it's true. And the sooner we can come to terms with that, the better we will get at positioning our message into that direction. Okay. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. Been doing this a long time, and it's the truth. People are not in this for the philanthropy of it. Yes, ESG, CSG, looking good, all that good stuff. That's secondary to making money. If there's any other questions, please pop them in. A few more things. We're starting on our home stretch. You want to know their questions before they ask them. You have a very short meeting and you want to intuit the questions. How do you do that? First of all, the good thing is there's people pretty much ask you the same questions again and again and again, so you can prepare for it. I see people coming in really prepared for pitches and then freezing in the questions, and that's a shame because the questions are almost more important. Usually they won't interrupt your pitch, and they might, and it's great actually. If somebody interrupts you and asks questions, it means that they're really interested. So on my website, also under resources, there's the ultimate list of investor questions that you need to be able to answer. So you can go there and grab it and think of all the questions you've been asked, all the questions you think you might be asked, all the questions you dread being asked. Make a list, put it on like a Google Doc or a Google sheet, and answer them. And if you're not sure of all the answers, have your CTO or your CMO or your product person also write in answers and familiarize yourself with those answers as much as possible. But the goal is also, if there are burning questions, weave them into your pitch. The pitch and the way it's structured is built around questions and concerns of your audience. If you go back and reverse engineer it, it's what is this? Why does it matter? How is it different? How do I know it works? Who's it worked for? All of those are baked into this kind of master structure that I just gave you. So really give mind to the questions, because if you are addressing their questions, it's building trust. Practice truly makes perfect. Actors, singers, dancers, athletes, they go through training and practice sessions. They don't just walk out onto the stage. And here we are as presenters we're just ready to make some kind of appearance and think, you know, after working till 2 a.m. on our pitch and just walk in the next morning to a meeting, not having practice. Doesn't work that way. Practice giving your pitch in front of your team. Practice giving it in front of your family, your neighbors. Heck, if you're on a train, plane, or automobile, practice to the driver. You never know if whoever's sitting in there might be your next business partner, investor, whatever. There have been stories like that. So get it to the point. I don't want you to memorize it, because if you memorize something and you black out on one word, the whole thing will kind of go to whatever, to the crapper. So we don't want that to happen. Just repeat it to yourself enough times that you kind of get it into your body on a cellular level. And finally, my final tip of the day, I want you to walk in the room or the Zoom at your best. They don't know that you slept 2 hours last night because you had a major bug in your system. They don't know that you got caught in traffic and were stuck in there for 2 hours almost late. They don't know that the kids are home with COVID and there's a mess all around you. And you know, honestly, nobody really cares anymore. It's par for course. What they do know is the person that walked in the room is you. And I'll let you in a little secret. They really want to like you. They want to like you. They want to like your product. They want to like your team. They want to have discovered this for whatever reason, and really find that next big thing. So show them yourself at your best. Okay, leave all the crap outside the room, because believe me, it'll be waiting for you. And come in there at the best version of yourself. This is the first time they're seeing you. You might have had a bad meeting yesterday. They don't know that. This is your chance to reinvent it and come in with your fresh energy, because there is no second chance for a first impression. If any of you have ever interviewed people for a position, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that in the first 30 seconds, you knew if they had a chance of moving on or not. The rest of the time was spent either convincing yourself that you were right or that you were wrong. But we get things right away. And one last thing, follow up. Okay. The day of the meeting, I want you to write a thank you note. This is very American, and it's something that all Israelis should learn. Thank you very much. Send a quick email. Hi, so-and-so. Thank you so much for your time. What I found especially helpful was ABC, shows you were listening. Also, you told me that there was somebody that you could introduce me to at X Corporation. Would you mind forwarding this? And then you write an actual email that they can copy, paste, and forward in third person. That it works really well. And then say, you know, also I'd love to follow up with you as we gain traction. And then you can put them on like a monthly or quarterly update. You never know when you're going to hear back from them. And don't be all put on need, like if you haven't heard back from them 6 months and then suddenly you hear from them, oh, now that I raised around you, don't do that. Don't play the game. Again, they haven't said no to you because they want to be able to say yes to you one day if it's relevant. So you be persistent, but not aggressive. Okay. Make sure that you're following up, but not like mean about it. Okay. I can't believe you didn't answer me. That's so rude. Anyway, so these are my main tips. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them now. If you want to reach out, please feel free to. Icon is amazing, and these meetings are amazing. Make the most of the time that you have with the people you've been assigned to, okay? Because these are opportunities that you don't get every day. Thank you very much.
תודה. שומעים אותי? שומעים אותי, דונה?
I do.
אוקיי, אז תודה רבה, דונה, ותודה לכם שהצטרפתם. אני מקווה, אני בטוחה שתצליחו ליישם את הטיפים המעולים כבר בפגישה הבאה שלכם. זהו, תודה רבה. Signing off. ביי.